So my wife and I were just watching this documentary on Netflix about GMOs and how many GMOs are in your, basically how much food you eat are genetically modified. From wheat and corn, you know, some of the basic staple foods, crops are GMOs. And what turns them into a GMO really, what one of the guys was saying, he's like, look, it's not that they're really messing with the DNA, the genes of the seed too much, other than injecting a pesticide-resistant gene into it. So therefore, it makes the seed a pesticide. So when you eat this food, you are eating a pesticide, technically speaking, because when they spray the Roundup Ready pesticides all over the fields, that used to not be done because it would, think about that, you would kill the crops along with the weeds and the grass and everything else. So that's not going to work. You can't just blanket spray pesticides or herbicides, I should say, like that, because that's going to kill everything. So now they say, oh, we got this new seed. This has been going on for many years now. And the seed is resistant to, specifically, Monsanto's Roundup. So Monsanto gets to sell this tons and tons of Roundup to all the farmers, you know, I'd say across the world, but most of the other world is starting to ban GMOs and Monsanto completely out of their country. And for some reason, America hasn't done a single thing about it. Having said that, this spray kills everything except for the corn or the wheat or whatever it is. The problem is now there's a lot of bugs that have grown to be resistant to that Roundup. Not just the Roundup, but the stuff that they put inside the seed that normally kills the bugs, keeps the bugs away from them. So it's like a two-part thing. It's a herbicide and a pesticide, right? So it can kill the bugs. The bugs don't want nothing to do with it, and it also kills the plants and the weeds. Well, there's also weeds now growing up that are starting to become resistant to the Roundup. And then these bugs are now becoming resistant to the herbicide or pesticide that's inside of the seed. So the issue also is that, okay, well, if they're spraying the hell out of this plant with pesticides, right, or the Roundup Ready stuff, right? You grab a bottle of Roundup. I'm sure some of y'all for sure have gotten, I've purchased some Roundup before in my lifetime to spray some corners or whatever, you know, hard to get to, weed whack kind of places. And I read the bottle, and it said something like, you know, make sure you use gloves, don't let the liquid get on your skin. Warning, causes DNA changing properties, something. Like, what the? Altering DNA by touching, what the hell? I'm thinking, okay, so we're gonna all spray that on crops or just weeds, right? Get rid of the weeds. And then it sits on the ground, killed the weeds. Great, good job. And then what? Where does it go from there? Well, it's going to rain, and it's going to get pushed down into the soil. And if you kept spraying and spraying and spraying and doing this for, I don't know, many, many, many years, I don't know, it's probably going to get pushed down and start to cake up, you know, on its way down. It's going to have a nice little heavy barrier of this crap going down into the soil, which then goes into where? The water table. If you have organic farming, you don't have any issues. You can never mess up the water table. You can never mess up somebody's health. Doesn't matter. Why? Because it's all organic. You're not using any kind of pesticides or herbicides or anything. You're just growing the food naturally. So we've had this problem with bee loss. Colony collapse disorder. Let's give it a name. We don't know what it's doing it. We'll just call it colony collapse disorder. And I remember watching a documentary a few years back about these bees and how these farmers are being wrecked. These bee farmers are being wrecked financially because they'd go send their bees off to truck it out to a massive farmer's land, right? And hey, it's that time again. Pollinate my crops. I give you the money, of course, for bringing your bees over here. Everybody's happy. And then the guy comes back with, you know, a quarter of his bees that he left there with. Massive financial loss. Can't figure out what it is. Why are these bees dying? Turns out these bees are being let loose on genetically modified crops. And this is the telltale sign here. This is brand new. 37 million bees found dead in Ontario, Canada after planting large GMO cornfield. Millions of bees dropped weeks ago in Ontario, Canada. The local beekeeper, David Shuett, who produces honey in Elmwood, lost about 37 million bees, which are approximately 600 hives. Once the corn started to get planted, our bees died by the millions. He said, while many beekeepers blame neonicotinoids, or neonics, for colony collapse of bees in many countries, and the EU have banned those types of classes of pesticides, the U.S. Department of Agriculture fails to ban insecticides known as neonicotinoids, manufactured by Bayer Crop Science Incorporated. Two of Bayer's best-selling pesticides are known to get into pollen and nectar and can damage beneficial insects such as bees. The marketing of these drugs also coincided with the occurrence of large-scale bee deaths in many European countries and the U.S. Nathan Carey, another local farmer, says that this spring he noticed that there were not enough bees on his farm and believes that there is a strong correlation between the disappearance of bees and insecticide use. And as I mentioned, the bugs that these things are supposed to have been killing and have killed in the past are now growing to be resistant. What happens when you have a bunch of bugs that eat these crops and they're hit with this whatever type of insecticide? They die. But they don't always all die. Some of them survive. So the ones that survive are reproducing, having baby bugs, little children, who are then more resistant than normal to the crop because their parent bugs didn't die from the first go round. So now you have the weak DNA bugs, so to speak, being killed off, and the stronger DNA bugs sticking around, reproducing, building numbers back up, and going and having a feast on these crops. So then you have a place or a company like Bayer or Monsanto or whoever, DuPont is another one, who have to kind of change the formula up a little bit. These bugs are getting, you know, we can't have that or our business goes down the drain. Farmers are going to look at us like, hey, what's going on? It's not going to work. Change the formula a little bit. Well, but the problem is the new formula is going to end up killing bees too. We don't care. We've got profit. We've got shareholders, mofo. We've got shareholders. That's more important. If bees die, human life ceases to exist because they pollinate stuff that we eat. And say that last part again? Yeah. Profit and shareholders are more important than these bees. Therefore, more important than future human life. Correct. That's what they're saying. In the United States, for 7 consecutive years, honeybees are in terminal decline. U.S. scientists have found 121 different pesticides in samples of bees, wax, and pollen, lending credence to the notion that pesticides are a key problem. So I don't need to read this anymore. I mean, I can stop. The point is here. Millions, 37 million bees gone as soon as this corn was planted. So if they're planting the corn and then they're spraying the field to get rid of them weeds, can't have them weeds growing up when our corn's growing up because that's the most critical time. We need all those nutrients for the corn. We can't be sharing it with the weeds and other things that grow because they will take the nutrients from the corn, therefore the corn dies. So start spraying that field as soon as you plant them seeds. Get that crap going. So one thing I love about Monsanto, well really I hate it, is that if you have a farmer who is next to another farmer, and farmer A is organic, farmer B is using Monsanto's Roundup Ready seeds, and they both are growing their corn, and somehow, due to the wind blowing, cross-pollination, etc., goes over to these cornfields over in A, now has contaminated the organic corn with this genetically modified corn DNA, so to speak. You then have Monsanto running around checking people's farms saying, hey, you're using our corn. You don't have a contract with us, we're going to sue you unless you'd sign up for a contract. If you sign up for a contract, we'll let it slide. And the farmers are like, I didn't take your seeds. It's not my fault if the wind blows and the crap gets over here. I'm not paying you. And then they go to court, and most of the time, they lose. Monsanto wins. So, if that happens, and it does, why can't a farmer like this who just lost 37 million bees file a lawsuit against the other farmer, and rather than tell the farmer, I'm suing you, I'm actually going to sue the company who's providing you these pesticides, which is this Bayer or Monsanto or whoever, DuPont, just like they would sue them in court, vice versa. So now it's payback time. I just lost 37 million bees, whatever that equates to financially, you can go in there and sue them for. The problem is you have to prove your bees were killed by this spraying of whatever. So what I would do is I would have a beehive, I would film it, I'd have it sitting over here, I'd grow my own little small garden for this one particular beehive so they can pollinate it, and as soon as I start growing my stuff, I'm going to go buy some of that great chemical from either DuPont or Dow or whoever, right? Spray it on there, videotaping the whole time, watch the colony, this one single colony that was responsible for pollinating that, die off, and prove before that here's a organic garden, no problems, and here's months of this activity, no sweat, everything's good. I've now planted a new garden with the same exact seeds, everything's the same, and just use this one particular pesticide that my neighbor happens to use, in which case I'm making that his pesticide killed my 37 million bees, and now this particular colony is dead. Or mostly dead, right? So, it's amazing what kind of world we live in when profit is the key motivating factor above everything else, including animal life, include the insects, important insects like bees, they're extremely important. Without bees, you don't cease to exist, so, pretty important insect. And then, of course, last but not least, the rest of us humans. Profit is more important than our own lives. Unbelievable.